My void will consume you, if you ask nicely.
Your will is no longer your own.
Stay away from them. To arms!
You have led the Horde to a place without honor.
Your petty quarrels only make me stronger.
Our world needs us, champion.
You got me over your head.
We cannot let the world fall to darkness.
Already lost.
Put your faith in the light, and all is possible.
Is it truly righteousness that drives you? I wonder.
It would seem you have guessed.
They are coming for you. This is the Whispers of Woes.
Hello everyone and welcome to show 81 of Whispers of War. I'm your host Sil and let's jump into how was my week in World of Warcraft. I have to admit it's been a little bit slow compared to the week before, but I did get some leveling in, as always. That is the thing that I just do now. I just level, which is tedious, but I've set myself a goal of doing it. And you know, once I'm on a roll, it's fine. I think the problem is when I switch characters, because I do want that rested experience, that's when it starts to become a little bit like, do I really want to do this again? So I might have to start switching up areas, so we shall see. But that's something that needs to be changed to make it a bit more interesting. So luckily we got told this weekend, I think it was, that the leveling buff is staying until the pre-patch. Is the pre-patch? I think so. For Shadowlands when that drops. So at least we don't have to worry about having to do everything really quickly now before the final day. We have a bit longer to enjoy the experience buff. But we don't just have the experience buff, we also have the reputation buff, which is great, I guess, for, you know, everyone who wants to complete certain reputations, maybe get flying on older characters or older areas, things like that. The only thing that you don't get a buff for is the Rajani and the what are the dudes in the desert? You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So you don't get those two. Which I guess some people won't be happy with that, but I think it's only fair because that's quite new compared to everything else. You know, at least work on those other things then. And then you can always do the hard grafting for this, for these two, the old-fashioned way. And I'm sure that we'll have to wait quite a while for Shadowlands anyway. So, you know, you have shit to do, I guess. So yeah, that's it. I know my plans for the coming weeks, just leveling. I haven't raided this week. Again, I'm just not feeling it at the moment, and it's not my guildies because my guildies are lovely. But I just in the evenings I get consumed by doing lots of other things, and it's just at the moment it's not there for me that I'm like, okay, I'll sit down and I'll start raiding now. I just get stuck into doing other things. I'm not going to say that Animal Crossing isn't a part of that, because it is. So yeah, that's also very important. But you know, I think it's just weird times, and I keep saying that in every podcast. It's just such weird times at the moment that days seem to blur a little bit. So yeah, that's really how I feel about things. It's sometimes just a miracle that I'm doing the things that I should be doing, just because feels odd. Everything feels strange. But other than the leveling, which is just continued, I decided that I need to start figuring out what I want to play in Shadowlands, even though it's a little bit, it's still quite a while away, a few months, at least 6 months, in my opinion. So I am still not sure what I want, to be fair. I was thinking maybe I'll play my rogue again, but I do watch Preach's videos because I do think it's, you know, good how he describes classes, because he's not looking at the damage at the moment. He's just looking at, is it fun? What sort of abilities have we gotten? Does it work? Does it feel sluggish? Or, you know, and that helps a lot. And I know it's just the opinion of one person, and a lot of things get changed because at the moment we only have Bastion to compare it with the Covenant abilities. So I wouldn't know, for instance, if a rogue would play so much better on a different Covenant. On the other hand, that's kind of worrying if that really makes such a big difference, because it would mean that you are really shoved into a certain Covenant with a class. So that's something I'm starting to figure out if that will happen or not. But we won't know until the other Covenants are available for testing in Alpha, or Beta even. So at the moment, even though I love my rogue, I've not heard amazing feedback from it. Not that it's bad, but just, I think, as it was said, meh. And that's not really how I want to continue with the next expansion, if I'm honest. So, the class I've been oogling for a while now, and which I always enjoy leveling, is Paladin. So, I might just go to Paladin for this expansion. It's looking that way, at least. Hunter is also one of those things that I might be doing, but I'm, like I said last time, ranged classes find that difficult for some reason. I'm not enjoying them as much as I used to. So maybe that will change. You know, I've changed all of a sudden into being melee and enjoying that a lot. So maybe it will change again? I don't know. That's how I feel at the moment. So either Paladin, Hunter, maybe. It really depends what the other Covenants will bring, and because that's the problem. Nothing against Paladin, so nothing against you Pally players, but it's not really my class flavor, if that makes... The class fantasy for me is not that appealing. So I don't know if I need to... You know, you can say, oh, play a Dark Paladin or something, if that's what you want to go with the vent there, but... Yeah... Isn't that a Death Knight? That's, you know, for me, that's how it feels. I know I could probably play it a little bit more edgy, but I need to really, really think about that. And unfortunately, that is a big one for me. So it might be that one class that I was actually not considering is Shaman, which I am considering now, because I have to admit that I do like Enhance. So maybe Enhance Shaman will be a good one. We shall see. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what Shadowlands brings, and hopefully I'll figure it out soon enough. But it would be nice to finally get a class that I'm really like 100% in, because at the moment I'm just not. I like my rogue, I like the tricks, but I'm just not really feeling it anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So. Other things that I've been doing, except pondering this, as you might have figured out, is leveling the bodyguard in Najdatar a little bit. So, my bodyguard, I want to say she, but I don't think my bodyguard is a she, is now 19, level 19, or rank 19, and so close to 20, and I think that's when you get the mount, and I think that's when I'm going to stop doing anything in Najdatar. I'm done. So yeah, I'm not really like going to do anything, I guess, anymore with my main then at that point in time. I might just do the odd thing here and there to get my essences up to rank 3, but I don't really see the point. Again, because Shadowlands will be out and that's it then. We'll probably have to get new necklaces and cloaks. Yeah, I don't see the point, really. Yeah, I don't feel that need to do too much with the ranks, but maybe if I feel like, oh, I completed something, yeah, who knows. So that's really it. That's all I've been doing. It's a whole lot of nothing, really, except for leveling, which I still find incredibly chilled at the moment. It's my go-to thing to do. Just to put some Netflix on, some YouTube videos, listen to some music, and that's really it. And the one thing that I'm really enjoying doing while leveling characters is watching Critical Role, because I came into it a bit late. So I think I started at like I don't know, really late, like a year late to campaign 2. So I'm catching up with all the things that I've missed beforehand, and it's really nice. It actually gets me into the whole role-playing setting again. So I'm enjoying that. And I think that's the things that you have to find now, right? Just little things that make you enjoy what you're doing. So that's really it. Something else I really enjoyed doing was talking to my lovely Guildmaster Bones. So I will leave you with that interview now. And then afterwards, I'll come back with the question of the week. And we'll talk a little bit about how you guys prep for a new expansion. So I will see you on the flip side. And with me today, I'm being joined by my wonderful Guildmaster. Welcome, Bones.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
It's very nice to have you. So, also because I think this is just to aggravate them a little bit and see if they will respond. I think the rest of the guild is a bit chicken shit to come on. So
I got to lead from the front.
Exactly.
If I'm willing to do it, come on, you can all do it.
So I think many know that I'm, just to explain this for some of the listeners, because I'm in 2 guilds, basically. I am in Immortalis, but we decided from our classic guild to also have another guild. So you created another guild on the same server,
Yep.
which I am fondly part of, because that's another lovely bunch of people together. So I have the best of both worlds, really. But Bones, before we talk about the guild, why don't you tell a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then if you want to talk about the guild.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a one of these long-term WoW players. I played since way back in vanilla. I fell in love with the game through the original sort of Warcraft 2, 3, Frozen Thrones, etc., and anticipated with bated breath World of Warcraft coming out. Always been a bit of a gamer. I'm, should we say, of the older scale of people playing around at the moment. I'm not a pensioner yet. But yeah, so I play a lot of different games and things, but at the moment, World of Warcraft is sort of very much an all-consuming thing, especially, as you say, with the guild. Other than that, I'm a father, husband, and a chef as well in my real life, so very busy. So I don't get a lot of time to play an awful lot of games, but other than World of Warcraft, so yeah, that's me really.
Okay, so why don't you tell a little bit about the guild,
Sure.
The name and how it all got started?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's as you well know, there's a couple of fantastic video producers and streamers called Talius and Evertel. I've been a fan of their videos and what they do and their approach to WoW, in the sense of a lot of fun, enjoyment. Even when they're criticizing some things that go on with Blizzard and WoW, they do it in a way that you don't think they're attacking anybody. Even when they are attacking somebody, they're not, if you see what I mean. But it's so I had a lot of respect for them. And then when Taliesin said, "Look, Classic's coming. We're going to create a guild. Anybody is interested, come and join it." So I was going to play Classic anyway, and in his own words, it was definitely a shit show when it started. I created a priest, an undead priest called Bones. I got the name Bones, which I was amazed about, and then spent the next 3 hours trying to complete the first quest. It was a lot of people in one place. But then when Tally created Taliethics, I quickly signed up and came across wonderful people in the guild like yourself, and enjoyed doing a lot of the 5-mans and the leveling, etc. And it was a group of people with very similar mindsets, and we've all come across people who are ninjas and not very nice people in World of Warcraft. Unfortunately, there's still a few of them there, but it was something about the pairing and their podcasts, not podcasts, their YouTube videos and etc. But kind of brought the same type of people together, who were all looking for the same thing. As Classic moved on, a few of us were going, we love playing together, but we kind of miss retail. So we had a little chat, and we even did a poll online as to Horde or Alliance. And a Bit Like Taliethics was created, a play on, obviously, Taliethics being the Classic guild. that Tally created. And we did that. Quite a few people ported over and was playing BFA. A lot of people from different servers. We created it on Argent Dawn EU, which is a roleplay server, for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's the one that Immortalis and Tally and Evertal play on as well. But I've always found in the past there is a different caliber of people on role-playing servers. You get less. It doesn't attract the douchebagginess that some servers do. There seems to be a lot more social awareness and sort of a lot more nicety than you tend to find on a lot of the other servers. And yeah, it's generally a really nice place to play. You're always going to get some sectors of the world. You know, we don't visit Goldshire very often, but there's always places that are no-go zones, etc. But generally, as a rule, it's a really nice server and a great bunch of people. And the guild has just grown from strength to strength. Obviously, people have come in from other servers and joined us, and people on the servers joined us, people who are also fans of Taliesin, and you know, more the merrier. Yeah,
exactly. And it's a very, I would say, easygoing guild.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're not hardcore in the slightest. You know, we're raiding heroic at the moment in the Zoth. We're doing a lot of mythic pluses. You know, we've got a great team of officers and people that are pushing for sort of 12 to 15 keys and mythic plus. I think we are. I'm gonna get told off by Ithrid and Block if I get this wrong. I believe we are 10 out of 12 bosses in Heroic and Zoth now. But that's quite a slow progress if you compare to a lot of guilds. But we're fine with that. You know, we're not exclusive of who we take, and we do it. We raid seriously, but we have fun while we're doing it as well.
Yeah, if there's one thing, I mean, you can always, it's a little bit of an inside story, I guess, for everyone listening. You can always hear when everyone starts to really focus, because Discord just goes dead.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny now in the earlier bosses in the Zoth that, you know, we're chatting just utter rubbish all the way through the first few bosses and things, and then suddenly we're getting to those progression bosses and going, oh. And yeah, it goes quiet and you go, oh, everybody's really got their game faces on.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we'll talk more about the guild in a bit. So I already noticed, and I think people have picked up on this, but Bones, Horde or Alliance?
Personally, this comes into another discussion about Shadowlands, really, but I think there should be 3 factions, and I want a Forsaken to be a separate faction, but that's another discussion. Yes, we are Alliance. There was a vote, and Horde missed out by 1 vote. There's quite a few people who are a bit sorry about that. I do miss my undead and my Tauren monk, but yeah, it was the vote and the people's will that we be Alliance. So for the Alliance. Doesn't sound as right, does it?
I'm not saying anything because I'm bifactional, so I'm staying out of that.
You're one of those, yeah.
I'm one of those. Okay, what is your main nowadays? Because I know, just like many others, you've taken to leveling some alts.
Yes.
What would you say is your main now?
My main is Tinkerbones, my gnome warlock. I started with Taliethics with a monk, healing monk. Got completely embarrassed because we've got a much better healing monk in the guild. So I went, yeah, I tell you what, I'm going to play a shaman. But it's just one of those things that I love healing. It's great, but I also feel a sense of letting everybody else have a go. And again, part of the great thing about the guild is we seem to attract people that want to support each other. So we have this ridiculous abundance of tanks and healers in the guild. We never seem to be short of them because they always want to, you know, oh yeah, I'll come and help out, I'll do this and this. So we've attracted players who are playing healers and tanks. So we did lack a fair amount of DPS, which is why I swapped over to the warlock, and absolutely loving it. Yeah, it's really good fun. So yeah, at the moment I'm playing a Destro warlock, little gnome fella with Tinkerbones.
Very, very cool. Okay, so how did it all start for you? When was that point you thought, this is the game for me now, and how did you get into World of Warcraft?
Well, yeah, like I said, it's sort of like it came via playing, Warcraft 1, 2, 3, etc., and really that anticipation of I played EverQuest, and wow, if there was ever a description of a shit show, that place could be just utterly. If anybody, and people who've played it know exactly what I'm talking about. People moaned about 40-man raiding. Well, in EverQuest, that's where it started, and the numbers just went up from there. And was the idea of combining this sort of massively perpetual sort of world with the lore and the history of Warcraft was just it was like a dream, really. So I started way back in vanilla when it all kicked off, with a feral druid, the despicable class of vanilla that everybody used to say, you must heal, you've got to heal, you're a druid, you heal, and I was sticking to my guns. What I loved back then, and why I picked the druid, was the hybrid nature, the true hybrid nature, and it is something I think we've lost in this game a little bit. There was a couple of us in the guild who had the same mentality, that we would be, majority of the time, we'd be feral cats, but the idea being is we'd spread our talents across the trees, so that if a tank dropped, we'd pop in a bear form and we would off tank for a period of time. If a healer dropped, we'd pop out and heal for a bit of time. And we were not any, I say we weren't any good, we weren't brilliant at any role, but what we were sort of like anti-wipe devices. We were that sort of Swiss Army druid. We'd pop into whatever role was needed and fill it in because somebody dropped. And that was really fun. And that stopped being fun when they started forcing you to sort of pick one spec as opposed to being across the board with them. And a lot of people new to WoW probably won't even realize that back then you could do this. You had these separate talent trees and you could pick some from one and some from the next and mix and match it. So you weren't just resto, feral or balance. You'd have a mixture of all of them in there. Okay, if you wanted to be an out and out healer, taking that route gimped you a little bit and made you not as powerful as somebody who had taken it all out. But it wasn't about that. It was about dropping into whatever role that you were needed for. And I love doing that. And an interesting little thing happened in Wrath of the Lich King, where one day I was tanking away as a bear, and somebody said to me, "Oh, your health is dropping. You're difficult to heal." And then I started moaning back at the healer that they weren't healing me properly, etc. Being as I was back then, probably quite obnoxious, moaning at them for not healing me properly. And they turned around and said, "If you think it's so easy, you do it." So literally the next day I rolled a resto shaman, and loved healing ever since, and sort of retired my tanking days back then, to then play healer, which I did all the way through up until this expansion. I played a resto shaman and then a disc priest all the way through Kata and Legion and Panda land, etc., up until now, which I'm now swapped to the Warlock and really enjoying it.
Nice. So what was that point for you in the game that you thought, okay, this is the game for me, I don't have any other time for any other games?
It's interesting that, because to me it was, I remember, and it's funny because with Classic coming out last year and stuff and playing that, and the rose tinted spectacle, but I remember at the time, and this is something Classic can't capture, standing on the top of like the Twin Colossus and just looking across the world and going, wow. And to me, it was that awe, that sort of, this is incredible. This whole land, and I can, if I want to, I can walk around. I mean, one time, me and a couple of friends literally swam all around Azeroth. We literally just went, oh, we're bored, what should we do? And it was just the fact that this place was so vast and there was so much to it. And gaming hadn't really seen anything like this in that multiplayer format that was so polished. And it's a trite saying, it's been said before, but you try every MMO out there, but it's like that comfortable pair of slippers that you put on and it just feels right. Everything about WoW, yes, there's imbalances, yes, this is wrong, but you kind of come back to it and you go, it just feels correct. And I do think it's this world they've created and the history behind it which draws you in and keeps you playing. That plus the people you meet. I've met some fantastic people playing this game. Some people that are very much real life friends now. We've been to each other's houses, we met up, etc. I've been on guild meets, and hopefully with this guild the same thing will happen. We're all very friendly at the moment. We enjoy each other's companies, and with a bit of luck we might have some guild meets when we can stop isolating.
Yeah, when we're allowed out.
We're allowed out again, yeah.
Okay, good. So we already talked a little bit about Classic and the fact that you've, we all met in Classic.
We did.
Have you gone back? Because I know that we're all very much into retail again, but have you gone back to Classic to replay it again after setting up the guild and everything, or what has happened?
I briefly dabbled. The problem that happened is that amazingly I stopped playing at level 58. And it's ridiculous that I stopped playing at level 58. It's 2 levels to go. You think, well, just do it. I stopped playing level 58 because this all kicked off. The biggest issue is I did at first go back 2 or 3 times, but most of the people that I'd been playing with and enjoying the game with had stopped and were playing BFA. So it was kind of like you were going back to a different guild. It wasn't the same people, etc. Tali obviously had sort of pulled away a bit from Classic and wasn't playing as much, so it wasn't necessarily drawing in the same people to the guild, and slowly but surely quite a few people left when PvP came out, because we were on a PvP server as well. I know a lot of people ended up transferring to a non-PvP server because they just couldn't handle the ganking. I'm not a PvP player, but I kind of found it quite amusing. It's but there you go. But yeah, so it was, for me, it was the people weren't around to play with. So I haven't been back since before Christmas. I went back several times, sort of October, November time, because we formed the guild in early October, and I went back to Classic 2 or 3 times, October, November, but not since then. No.
Okay, well, let's jump to the future then now. So we got told last year, it's still weird to say that Shadowlands was announced. We got a few things thrown at us at BlizzCon. So I'm just going to again say to everyone at home who's listening and like, oh my god, there's so much being data mined right now because the alpha has started. We are very aware of that. I always ask everyone to not say too much about the alpha. Anything that has been data mined, mostly by Wowhead. If we do, then we will say that it's going to be a spoiler beforehand, and then just, fast forward like 5 minutes or something. You should be fine then. But I think we're going to try and keep it as spoiler free as possible. And if we do say something, then we'll give you a warning. So that's before people get all panicky, like, oh my god, do I need to stop now? I don't.
To be fair, I've been on the outskirts of all the spoiler stuff, so I don't really know enough probably to spoil it for too many people anyway, so hopefully that won't happen.
No, I'm the same. I'm trying to stay a little bit away from it, just for myself, because, I don't want to be bored with the expansion too quick.
No.
Okay, so Shadowlands, what are your thoughts and feelings when it comes to this expansion?
Really excited. For a different reason to, I think, a lot of people. Really excited because this is going to be the first expansion that our guild starts from the beginning. We were formed in the dying breath of BFA. I know obviously 8.3 came out with the Zoth, etc., but that's the only raid we've done as a guild. And it's going to be nice to be hitting an expansion from the beginning with the guild. And Shadowlands itself actually does look like it's going to be exciting. Sure, there's going to be some imbalances and people worried about covenants and, are you going to be locked into one? And I think it was Taliesin had a very good point that, if you go down the route of, I'm going to be this covenant with my character because it's the best for raiding, and then you decide you want to do some PvP. Do you have to switch covenants, or will it be equally as good for both? Is there going to be a covenant that's good for PvP, one that's good for Mythic Plus, one that's good for raiding, and are you going to be forced into those pigeonholes? I hope they sort those issues out and that they won't be too strong. But hey, we've all played this game. It's never been balanced correctly, and we've all survived. It's not been, and it's never been, a deal breaker. So for me, really looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting in there. The Covenants look great. Torghast looks amazing. I can't wait to give that a go. There's a few things missing from my point of view that I'd like to have seen. Okay. I so really wanted light undead. I want to play an undead on the Alliance side in my guild. There's no two ways about it. So when all of that happened, in the book before Shadowlands was announced, and there was a hint about it. It was like, but it looks like I'm going to be left high and dry on that one. I also the whole merging of the factions, and we were at war, then we're at peace, we're at war. I'm kind of done with that now. I know it's World of Warcraft, we got Horde and Alliance, and we're all supposed to be against each other all the time, but it seems to be a constant pattern of we're fighting each other, then we come together at the end, we're fighting each other, and we come together at the end. And it'd be nice to just we're not fans of each other, but we're not going to be killing each other way through expansion, unless of course you have war mode on. I'd rather see a sort of an unsettled peace, shall we say, and one that even maybe in the future, maybe not in Shadowlands, but allows a cross-factioning of races. I'm all for seeing a Tauren running around, in an Alliance guild and vice versa. So I think it's about time that Azeroth united together. Okay, interesting. Because let's jump into that then before we talk a little bit more about Shadowlands and the leveling and the Covenants. So at the moment we are at a standstill. When it comes to the factions, there's I use the word peace all the time, but it's still Warcraft. You're saying that you're tired of the pattern of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now we come together, and then something happens to piss the other faction off, and we're at war again. And like to have things cross faction. How do you feel about where we stand with the whole at the moment? This is the interesting for me, is that with the cinematics and how BFA is kind of ended, it's almost like a perfect lead into saying, look, let's put this behind us. I know we've been, having this kind. It was even brought up in one of the cinematics, I believe, that the fact that we keep, falling out and then fighting each other and then getting back together again. It's about time that kind of we moved on with the story arc a little bit. Because it's happened a number of times now, that it'd be nice to actually have a scenario where we're not fighting. And this perhaps even goes into the third faction, where I said about Forsaken. Let's have a third faction called Forsaken, and let's have them be the big baddies, and Horde Alliance go and attack them. Although, to be fair, I'd probably sign up for the Forsaken, so it's probably not a good thing to happen. But I just feel that... I'd like to see the world become a little closer and sort of merging and not having the restrictions. And there's been little hints, and I remember looking back to the character select screen when suddenly one day these little Horde and Alliance icons appeared next to your characters, and thinking, what's that for? Are you trying to tell me that I might be able to play an Alliance Tauren at some point? Is this the sort of, because obviously you can look down your characters and go, it's an Orc, it's Horde. So you didn't really need to be told by an icon that it was Alliance or Horde. So it made me sort of think, maybe there's a chance for it. And I think that opens up a lot of really interesting options for World of Warcraft. RP, imagine, I'm not a big RPer, and I think RP is great, and I'm glad people enjoy it. But you imagine the roleplay potentials when a merging of factions can happen. So I think there's there is a lot of interesting avenues that could be taken.
Okay. It will be really interesting because I wanted the same thing. Like I thought, why are those icons next to the names? I mean, you could play it from maybe like a different point of view. Unfortunately, I always have to play a little bit of devil's advocate and things like that. Like it could just be because they wanted to get new players in, and it's all for clarity. No, you are this faction. That's why you see that there. It will be interesting to see what they do with this, and I'm wondering if we're going to be told more about that when the new book comes out.
Yeah, maybe.
That could be because, like you said, everyone started to speculating when Before the Storm had those new Forsaken in it, or at least one new Forsaken.
Yes.
So yeah, it will be interesting to see where we're going. Okay, so let's go further with Shadowlands. Covenants, we've just talked about them briefly, and that it might be outbalanced or not. We will see. We know how good Blizzard is at balancing things, and I say that with no sarcasm at all. But for you, if you are picking Tinkerbones, what faction or what covenant would you go for?
Now, you see, again, I can't help my dark, evil thoughts, the Venthyr, the great, and the Gothic architecture of that side of things really, really appeals to me. I mean, the idea of running around with a tombstone on my back. On a poor gnome, that might be a bit of a struggle. I can see her falling backwards every 5 minutes because there's a big tombstone on her back. I think it's probably going to have to be Necrolord. Because just from a warlock point of view, I said I don't RP. I've always had an opinion that my characters have got a backstory, and it's in my head, and every character I play is a character, and it's slightly more fleshed out than just an avatar on the screen. And she's a silly little gnome that gets herself into all sorts of bother and trouble, and her stumbling into the Necrolord sort of covenant seems just perfect for her, because it's the sort of thing she would do, and then wind up with some skeleton wings on her back and start running around. So that very much, I think, for Shadowlands, I'm probably going to do something I've not done before, which is two mained it. Have two characters I try and level almost at the same time. The other one being my shaman, who I do love to bits, and he's a very drunken dark iron dwarf, and I think he would probably go the Venthyr route, because the Gothic architecture and stuff really does speak to me, and I'd love to explore that more. But yeah, I think silly Tinkerbones is definitely gonna become a Necrolord.
Okay, is that, again, like you say, you say a little bit about the background of your characters, picking purely for aesthetic reasons?
Now, the problem is I could look down the list of all of the traits and all the abilities, the class ability and that sort of side of things. They're probably going to change a fair bit between now and when it's launched anyway. So to base it now on those, I think you're going to be in the right ballpark, but it's not going to be quite as straightforward as that. I also then think if I was in that top 30% of players where min-maxing is the all, then I think that probably I would be caring about it in terms of abilities and that sort of things. As long as picking a covenant doesn't reduce my effectiveness to the point that it's silly for me to be in a raid or a 5-man, then I'm going to pick it based on aesthetics and based on what I feel drawn to. And I think, and I urge that certainly for all of our guild, if not for the players at large. I can't imagine they're going to make them earth-shatteringly different enough that it's going to make a difference to us in our 5-man trying to plus 10 something. Whereas if you're in that method and up there in that sort of limit area, then you're going to be told what to do. You're going to be told what covenants you need to pick and what's best. And there are people even in our guild that love that min-maxing, and great. I think it's fantastic, but I don't think anybody should be under pressure to pick something based on I'm going to do 2% less DPS if I pick one over the other. If it's game breaking, I might change my mind. But yeah, the aesthetics and the whole what I feel is right for the characters are probably the way I'll go with it.
Okay. I think a lot of people share the same view. Like you said, there are going to be min-maxes out there, and fair on them, of course. But yeah, I think a lot of people are in the same boat as how you and I think about that. Okay, let's go to the leveling aspect, because it will change drastically. As I've seen a little bit of people already playing in the leveling areas, the new island that's going to come out.
Yeah.
I won't say much about that, but I do think it's a clever system of learning your class.
Yeah.
Say that you've leveled your 2 mains. I'm just going to say it like that. Your 2 mains. You've done what you wanted to do, and it's time to level an alt. As where many of us are at this point in time. Are you, when you create a new character, are you going to pick the expansions that you just enjoyed the most, or are you going to go, no, actually this expansion fits best for my class or my race, so I'm going to go here, and then if I have a different one, I'll go there, or is it purely no? For instance, Wrath has been my favorite. That's where I'm going.
I think it's an interesting one because with the 100% XP buff, and with most people in isolation at the moment, I don't think there's going to be many alts left to level when Shadowlands comes out. I think we'd have done them all. It's for me. Yeah, absolutely. From an alt point of view, I look for a few things when I'm leveling it. If I want to get a character quickly as possible, then I have a standard route that I follow that involves, Redridge Mountains, Duskwood, sorry, and the set pattern. I think when Shadowlands comes out and it already being a quicker leveling system, I'm going to probably take it character by character. I'm interested to see what this new island is all about and how it works. I am very tempted to go to areas that I kind of skip at the moment, and it's interesting. I'm leveling a druid at the moment. It's something to do, when I'm not playing everything else. And I was sat in Stormwind going, where do I want to go to do some quests? I've mainly been leveling in dungeons, and I thought I want to do a bit of questing. Where should I go? And I went to Twilight Highlands, or Twiglet Highlands, I like to call it. And I haven't been there, I think, since Cataclysm. And when you go there, and there's some great quests, there's some lovely architecture stuff going on there, and you think this is wasted now because nobody's here. And I literally did a who, and there was nobody in the whole zone apart from me. And I thought this is crazy. And I think it'd be really nice to sort of, because what happens is you end up doing like the first zone, and Burning Crusade is a classic example. You go to Outlands, you do Hellfire, and by the time you're done Hellfire with a few dungeons, that's it. You're done with that expansion. You're on to the next one. So I love the idea that you can actually go from beginning to end in one expansion. I think I'm probably going to naturally gravitate to ones that I've enjoyed the most, subconsciously. I'm still going to avoid Zangarmarsh because I hate that place. I always have done. It's a psychotic nightmare. So I think Legion is still very fresh in my mind. I've actually really enjoyed the leveling experience in BFA, to be honest with you. Judfar, I think, has got some of the best quest lines and story content that I've seen Blizzard produce for a long time. It really is. Again, I like the architecture. I love the gothic nature of it. And again, so I think BFA would certainly be a high ranking option for me. But it's probably going to be Wrath of the Lich King or Pandaland. I'm known for being a disliker of pandas in our guild, and it's not true. I just don't like panda mages. Panda mages, just why?
Well, we need one for the guild achievements.
I know, and Uthrid, who is one of the raid officers in our guild, he wonderfully has created a panda mage and called it Uthrid Bones, just to really annoy me. So thanks for that. So yeah, it's probably going to be a bit class dependent, if depending on what I've created and where I feel they need to go to level. But those are probably my three favorite areas. Pandaland, BFA, and Legion.
Okay, fair enough. Right, let's go. We've already talked a little bit about the guild and everything, but
yes.
What has the Warcraft community meant to you?
The Warcraft community has meant an awful lot to me over the years. Back in vanilla, I started playing. I was showing my wife the game I was playing, and I said, look, I was quite keen to get, because I needed to spend a lot of time playing. I wanted to get her playing as well, and I sort of went, you can be a warlock. They're evil and they're horrible and nasty. It wasn't not implying anything. And then I went and look, there's this auction house where you can buy clothes, and that kind of sold it to her. So she played for quite some time, and has done even recently up and on and off playing well. And at one point, I've got two children, a son and a daughter, who are now pretty much grown up. One's left home and the other one's threatening to leave home. But at one point we actually had 4 WoW accounts in our house.
Wow.
And we were all playing, and on top of that, my wife's mother and her partner and her brother all played as well. So when we were raiding ICC, we were doing 10-man raids, of which 6-7 of them were members of the family. So which was absolutely mental. But yeah, so it's meant actually a family activity in that sense, and I think not many games are like that. Not many games you can sort of are that attractive to such a wide range of people, and I love the fact that WoW is this kind of social leveler. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a binman, a on the dole, or whatever. When you log into World of Warcraft, we are all, to a degree, equal. There are some more equal, like BD in our guild. Wow, his DPS is off the charts. But generally, we log into this game, and it doesn't matter who you are behind the computer, and that really is a nice feeling to know that you can leave as long as you turn off trade chat. You can leave most of that behind. And just be whoever you want to be, and other people can be whoever they want to be, and there's no, apart from, as I said, Panda mages, there's no prejudice in there at all. So that's great. I've met some really fantastic people playing the game, and I say real life friends have meant a lot, and helped each other through difficult times and stuff away from the game as well as in it, and I think as well in this day and age when we are pushed into looking at screens, with social media and all these sort of things. This is almost like a modern day version of going to the pub. We go into Discord, we chat absolute rubbish to each other, we have a drink, we go and have instead of playing darts, we're raiding Nazoth. It's and in particular when I speak to my parents and I talk to my parents about it, they don't get the grasp. They sort of go, well, they're not real friends. They're not real people. They're computer people. And I'm going, no, you don't understand. There's somebody like me, the other side of their screen, doing what I'm doing. And it's just the same. So I love the fact that, generally the prejudice and all that is left behind. And we can all just be out there for a common goal, and really just enjoy a game together. So to me, it's meant an awful lot over the years. Yeah.
That's good. Like I said, I always like hearing everyone's experience about the WoW community, because I think, especially now that we're all in lockdown, and even more still being social is a big thing, and it's just nice to know that an online medium can really help with that.
Absolutely, yeah. To me, it's there's still the sort of elements of jealousy involved, and there's the 7 deadly sins always make an appearance in anything, and World of Warcraft is no different. There's always envy. There's always again, I seem to be going back to Goldshire on RP server. There's always lust. There's always all these things always appear, but it's still a way of connecting with each other and connecting with people. And I've had, even in this guild, I've had very real conversations with people about things away from the game, and it's nice to be able to be there for each other and go, how you doing, how are things, and you pick up on vibes as well. You can be doing a raid and somebody's a bit quiet in Discord, or you look at your meters and somebody's a bit off and you think something's not quite right with them, and you just throw them a whisper and say hi, how you doing, how you feeling, is everything all right? And it's really nice that and I'm not suggesting every community is like that, but it's really nice to have a group of people like that all feel the same sort of way, and that's what you get with WoW. And you only get that in something that you have to invest time in. I've played many sort of first-person shooters and things like that, and yes, you have regular people you chat to and stuff. But I think because of the amount of investment in a game like World of Warcraft, that gives you the time to get to know people and work with people. And it's also interesting to see how World of Warcraft bleeds into real life in reverse. Just a thing I saw with the horrible virus that's going on at the moment. The Washington Post did an article I read the other day about the corrupted blood incident that happened way back in vanilla. In Sul'Gorob, there was a boss Hakkar who had this debuff he did called corrupted blood. And do you remember the time that if you're too close together, then you gave it to other people, etc. And due to a mix-up in coding, there was an incident where this debuff didn't disappear when you left the raid. So it was actually coming back to like Ironforge and Stormwind and stuff, and people were corrupting each other, and it was just spreading throughout the whole. In the end, I believe they had to do some sort of server reset thing to try and get rid of it. But it's interesting. The Washington Post, did liken the current pandemic and said, WoW was doing it back in 2005, but it's sort of like this sort of the learning aspect of it. There's a lot of things in WoW that get reflected in real life, and this was a doctor, it wasn't just anybody. He was sort of saying that studying things like that in games actually is helpful in real life to sort of understand how these things spread, how measures we can put in place to prevent them spreading, and even back then, don't go and visit the low level areas because this thing will kill them straight away, which is the same in real life. Don't go and visit vulnerable people because it's what we've got to do to stay safe. So it's really interesting how WoW is reflected in real life in multiple different ways like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you, and that's on so many levels with other things. And we've seen how the community can pull together. I mean, the running of the gnomes is one of those things.
Yes, I love that.
With anything for breast cancer research or the running of the trolls for the LGBT community. It's one of those things.
I mean, not so much in recent years, but I remember going, seeing in-game wakes and things like that for players that had passed away and things like that. And we've had even Blizzard's response to that, where there's been fantastic sort of, I think there's a couple of statues and in-game items that have been named after, the Make-A-Wish Foundation kids and things like that that are kind of like. So it's really good. I think the social interaction in WoW is again a microcosm of humanity at its best and worst at times. But yeah, I love that sort of thing, and that's I think is what's at the heart of this game, and why it has stood the test of time, and why it meant a lot to quite a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's jump to a not so serious question. What's your favorite in-game food? And seeing you as a chef.
This
no
is
pressure.
a hard one. This is a hard one. I'm terrible. I don't even have the chef title in game, which is I need to correct that right away. But maybe it's all the cooking away from the game. The last thing I want to do is cook in game. It's a very difficult one. I have a few different favorites. I mean, am I allowed to say green cookies? Being a warlock. Can I? Is that a food?
Yeah.
Any food that you can get a mage to conjure up nowadays is like miraculous, let alone good. So mana buns would have to be there. I don't know. It's a tough choice between homemade cherry pie, which is an old vanilla classic recipe, purely because I love cherry pie in real life. So that's always going to be a favourite one. And I don't know if people remember this one. There was one around called Dragon Breath Chili that used to make you. I mean, who doesn't want to belch flames? I mean, really, that's an awesome food. So I think one of those two probably has to be my favourite.
Okay, fair enough. Right, let's go to the final question for the interview. And for those who need a bit of explanation, the question is, what is your whisper? And a whisper can be anything. So it could be a wish for the game, game mechanics you want implemented or changed, or a bit of fairy crafting about the story. So what is your whisper?
Oh, it's an interesting and hard question. There's a silly answer. Nerf locks. That comes back to something we used to say all the time when GMs used to be more in-game and literally would appear next to you and stuff. They always used to ask this question at the end of a conversation you had with them: is there anything else we can help you with? And at the time, I think it was sort of Burning Crusade era, warlocks were ridiculously overpowered, and just about everybody would answer that with, yes, can you nerf warlocks please? So that would that probably be one of them. No, in a serious thing, my wish would be, I would say I've never been a fan of the cross realming and the sharding and I suppose it's coming back from a history of servers being mini communities, and back when we started in vanilla, and it was a big game back then, all of the guild leaders knew each other and would chat regularly because there weren't that many guilds, because obviously 40-man raiding and stuff. There was a lot more social responsibility on players to not be a dick in a 5-man, because these people, you're going to walk past them and you go down, when you're going through Northern Strangenvale or something like that. So I think to me, it's perhaps returning slightly to that, maybe removing, and this is not going to be popular with some people, removing LFR, even to an extent removing looking for group. There is no looking for group tool for Mythic Plus, and that's what certainly I and a lot of people that I play with are doing mostly, and it doesn't seem to cause any issues. So I'd like to see that kind of tool being dumbed down a little bit or not being so important, so that actually we're interacting more with the people around us and saying, hey, I need a healer for this, does anybody fancy doing that? In channels, in a system. I understand why they're there. I do get why they're there, and people don't have the time. They want to just pop on and do that. But I don't think it helps the community, and it doesn't help people to get involved with each other and interact with each other. So some form of bringing the servers back to having a server identity. I mean, we're grateful. I mean, with Argent Dawn, obviously, we're only linked with, I'm going to get the name of it wrong now. What's the other RP server we're linked with?
Are we linked? Because I think Argent Dawn is still very much on its own.
Is it?
Yeah, I think we are in a group for when you get like looking for a dungeon and everything. I think we are still in a big group, but I think Argent Dawn is still on its own. But I think you were thinking of the other RP ones, weren't you? Like Urban Ring and Darkmoon Fair.
So we're quite lucky in being slightly sheltered like that, and I think that is reflected in the type of characters generally you meet on a server and the people playing those. But it's very sad when you do a looking for group and not a single. I make it a habit to always say hello and always say goodbye, and thank the healer if it was a good one, or thank the tank, etc. But you go into these groups and nobody says a word, and then you go through it, you do it all, you come out, and they all split apart and go their own ways again. And it's kind of like, that's kind of sad. And that's what I love about being in a guild like we have, is the fact that we tend to do things together as much as possible. When you do pug, I just like to have a bit more it's nice to recognize the guild name of the people you're running around with and go, yeah, that's a really good guild. Those guys are worth playing with. If you're looking for a healer to help you out on that 5-man, have a word with these people. I mean, I can't remember the last time I added somebody to my friends list that wasn't a guild member, and I kind of miss that a little bit, which is what I was hoping for with Classic. So maybe with Shadowlands, you never know. We might, I'm just hoping they might have learnt a few things from Classic and implement them in Shadowlands, but we'll see.
Server identity is not a bad thing. I agree with you on that. Okay, well, Bones, thank you so much for the interview.
You're most welcome.
Where can people find you? And maybe if you want to promote the guild and get more guild members in, where can they apply and do all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, well, if you in-game on, say, EU Argent Dawn, if you do a who for a bit like Taliethics, you can sort of message anybody in the guild and they'll point you in the right direction. We've also got a Discord channel as well. Myself personally, I've just started a new Twitter account, so you can always message me via that. That's Dr. Hugo Pinch, at Dr. Hugo Pinch, which is a gamer tag I've used many a place. Also the same gamer tag for my Twitch thing, which I don't stream at the moment, but I'm looking to stream certainly a bit more of our raids and 5-mans and stuff via Twitch, hopefully in the future when I learn how to use it properly. And that's where you can find me. Or like say in game, if you do a bit like Taliethics, anything with bone in the name is me. Apart from Moose with bones, because I don't do Panda mages.
That would be a surprise if we see that one. We know it's Ufred.
yeah, exactly.
All right, well, thank you again.
You're most welcome. Thank you for inviting me on.
And as always, I hope that you enjoyed that interview. It was lovely talking to a guildie. So hopefully my other guildies will feel not so scared now to be a guest. We shall see. Anyhow, I asked you guys a question. So on Twitter, and of course you can follow me on Twitter as well, go to @whispers_of_war, where I post a question of the week and call for guests and things like that. And I sometimes post a little giveaways as well. I think with show 100 we have to do something again. So I thought it would be interesting to ask you guys the question how you prepare for a expansion launch. Now I know some of us, that the actual launch people stay up very late, but I wanted to know, how do you prepare like in game? Do you empty your bags and sell everything on the auction house? Do you make sure your main is kitted out with enough gold? But then, once you've done all of that, do you also make sure on the evening maybe that you buy certain snacks for long hours of gaming? Because we all like to hear about all the food and snacks that's out there. You could get a good idea or maybe some inspiration of what you want to put on your snack list for next time. So let's see what you guys said. Let's go to Dalek Kupo, who said, "It's going to be the first time I've been playing at launch of an expansion. Not sure how to prep, but hopefully going to book the day off and no live it." I think we all want to do that. I don't know if we're still locked down that day or not. We shall see. Spanky Hunter said, "I vendor or delete everything in my bank, then I just play as normal. No time off work, and I prefer to let others play ahead of me to find all the bugs, crashes, so I have a smooth run 12 hours after everyone else. I only play with my girlfriend, and we are in no rush to do anything. Half the time we're on holidays when XPEX or patches launch. Years ago I wouldn't let that happen, but now that I'm in LDR, she comes first. WoW can always wait. And of course LDR is long distance relationship. I had to think about that for a second. But yeah, that's good. It's good that your girlfriend comes first. So I think, you have a point there. There was a time when I had to be there at the launch. I'm too old for that now. I just want my sleep or I get grumpy. Megs said, "I absolutely despise cleaning out my bags or bank space. Whether it's with my main or my many alts, there's always so much stuff in there, and I usually end up deleting or selling it all. I feel like I'm wow messy." I like that phrase. Wow, messy. I think you and me both, Megs. You and me both. Sodi said, I stock up on as much gold as possible. Once pre-patch hits, I always clear my bags of everything except for Goblin Glider kits. Then I let my wife know that 4 or 5 days after it comes out, I'll be a degenerate, and she's usually okay with it. You have a very understanding wife, I have to say. Jarv said, if I can take the time off, I try to get enough snacks and drinks to last for long hours, but I never know if I have enough time off for it. Yeah, true. I think we're all with that. You never know if it's enough time. Demethernoth, I'm sure I'm butchering your name. Or is it Demethernoth? That might be it. I've just spent a good hour sorting through my Death Knight's bank on the other night, and the other night I did the same on my alts, sold everything that was useless or sent mats to the auction house. It feels good to clear things out and prep a little bit. Yeah, I'm with you with that. I quite like having an empty bank, and I know some of my characters are horrific, and I'm dreading going through their shit. George Rent said, I do quite a few things on all my tunes. 1, I empty my bags of non-essentials. 2, practice any class spec changes. 3, buy goblin gliders. 4, park my characters at the expec start spot. And I also buy a lot of snacks in real life. That's always good. So yeah, the goblin gliders, that seems to be coming back, and it's not a bad idea actually. I've never really done that. But that's not a bad idea to do. Ria said, I don't do a thing. I haven't gotten to play at launch for the past several X-Pack releases because I typically end up working up a long day on release. Usually after the first week of the new X-Pack, I'll clean up my bags. Okay, you're still doing something. Frasley said, I kind of forgot to do any prep work. Oh, Frasley, that's fine. I have that sometimes with alts that I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should have done something on this alt, and then I end up doing nothing. So yeah, it's always a surprise on launch day for me. So that's it, guys. That's the show. I have a very, very cool one again next week. So make sure you're downloading that one as well, I guess. So look forward to that one. For once, I'm a bit ahead with the interviews. Thank God for that. Because even though we have so much time, it's still, I don't know. It's a weird ass time. I don't know what's happening, and I just don't know how to feel about certain things. But yeah, interview-wise, it's all going really, really well. So next week I will be talking to the wonderful Noble. So expect a lot of lore, discussions, and just shenanigans, like always. One of the longest interviews I've had. So yeah, it's a long one, but a good one. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so if you want to find the show, you can do that in the following ways, of course. Go to Podbean, whispersofwar.podbean.com, where you can find all the shows, the show notes, and all that fun stuff. dragonpoweredstudio.com/Discord. That's where you can find the Discord channel. So make sure you join that, because it's always lovely talking to everyone. Twitter @whispers_of_war, or my personal one, which is McMonkeys with a Z. Email the show at whispersofwarpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/McMonkeys with 2 Zs. And of course, if you want to join a guild where I'm part of and where Bones is, then please join A Bit Like Taliethics. If you type in A Bit Like, you will find us there as well. On Argent Dawn EU and Alliance side. I don't think we're going to do anything with a Horde guild at the moment, but that might be something that we'll discuss in due time. I don't know. Maybe that's something we'll discuss. I've heard some people say, oh, Horde guild. We'll see. That's not for me to decide. I guess it's something that all the officers will decide on them, Bones. But yeah, Alliance for now. So hopefully I will see a few new recruits next time. That would be nice. But have a wonderful time, guys. Stay safe, and hopefully I'll be hearing from you again in Twitter replies and all those fun things. So see you all next week. Bye-bye.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.